Previously on Mr. Mash.
Now I know that for the merchandise, we have a big upgrade coming in the horizon. And then wait until June and get the classic characters at around $5, $8, or $10 maybe each. Alright, I'm gonna pray to God that the new products get a good distribution to Chile. You probably expected an All Engines Go product again, or maybe something from the 80th anniversary, but I decided to completely bait and switch you with something that is before both of those. You may recognize this design because a similar troublesome truck design was used for the recent classic Thomas 3-pack used for the 80th anniversary. Good morning, my dear gamers, Mashu here. Well, I think it's pretty obvious what we're looking at today, so let me get straight to the biscuit. In the end of July, I found out that 80th anniversary Metal Collection engines were being sold by AliExpress sellers. Since I had leftover money to spare, I said, why not? And decided to buy Thomas at least. Since he arrived, I thought, let's do a special review for him. Now, usually I wouldn't do reviews of single engines or characters like this because it isn't as interesting to look at compared to a set which has a lot of content. But because this is a new generation toy, I thought, why not? Like, it's a special moment and I waited forever in order to review these, so why not? Before we start, I do gotta say some boring but important disclaimers. A, this video isn't sponsored. I bought this Thomas with my own pocket money. This isn't a gift from my mom or dad, and this video isn't sponsored or brought to you in any way, shape, or form by Fisher-Price and Mattel. B, all of the opinions said in this video are my own personal opinions set by my point of perspective. None of the opinions said in this video were paid to say via a script or something. And C, if you have your own opinion, go ahead and tell it in the comments. I can learn to respect your opinion. But never, ever harass anyone over a personal opinion said. It will never be tolerated on this channel, ever. I don't want to have any response video of somebody going something like,
Jar, how could you say that sort of thing? You already know that Erdo is the best range. How could you say this is the best range? How dare you say such monstrous things? Mattel this, Mattel that. You aren't a real Thomas fan unless you don't know Erdo. Ah!
Please, shut up. We're talking about merchandise over a fictional E2 class tank engine that has a face. This type of conversation doesn't have to be taken seriously. You do not want to be that guy. If you want to say those style of comments, then perfect. You aren't welcome into this channel in the slightest. Well, now that we got all the crybabies out of this video, let's continue with this. Here is this box. It is indeed a box. Since I got this from AliExpress, the seller sent me one in a Chinese box. But that doesn't really matter. The model inside the box is exactly the same compared to the international one. And as you can see, instead of a 2D drawing of a character, we have a 3D render of a character. We also have an added 80th anniversary icon into the box. What is odd is that compared to AEG boxes, they removed the Mattel logo from the bottom left hand corner. I have no idea why. On the back, you can see some nice details like the website link, the cloud, the Mattel tagline, hit logo, all that sort of things. Alongside the infamous More Friends, More Fun advertisement that Chinese boxes have. International boxes, from what I know, don't have this. Here's an up-close look at those models from the advertisement. They are really nicely done. It is very interesting knowing that they actually advertise Storybook Thomas because he's the Chase variant. Anyhow, here's a picture from when I took Thomas out of the box for the first time. He was a beautiful sight to see. What do you say? Let's get up close and look at him in a better view. Well, where do I start? Well, usually with the sets I usually start with the face due to the variant, so let's start there as a beginning point. You'll be very glad to hear that even though this is supposed to be a stock standard Thomas, the face is actually pretty unique. From a front angle he has a, hey, what's going on up there kind of face. While from other angles he has a, yo, sup kind of face. Compared to AEG, there's a massive difference between the molds. Back with AEG faces, the face usually didn't fill up the entirety of the smoke box, at least for Thomas. One of the only molded in parts was the nose, and the rest was 2D printed. But with the 80th, everything is the complete opposite. The face fills up the entirety of the smoke box around, and you can see that every part of the face now has a mold. The nose is bigger, the eyes have eye sockets, he has cheeks, and there's a new mouth. While we're looking at this front, you can see that the front buffers are painted on. Nice. And he has a little lamp. Very cute. It appears like the coupling is also changed too. Back in AEG and other lines, you can see that the coupling was a bit more white. But here it almost looks spray painted or platinum. But the real changes don't start until we look at his sides. Jeez Louise, what should I talk about first? Okay, so for starters, there's rivets. The number 1 is very weirdly centered in. It doesn't look that great, but it looked way worse back in Toy Fair. And one of the biggest changes and upgrades, the cab is finally full again. Ever since mankind was forced in order to touch 2014 taking place, we've been cursed with the dumbed down version of Thomas for 11 years. But finally, the cab is full again, standing there all tall and proud. And also opened. This gives us more room in order to have more complete whistles. And in this model, they're doing the whole AEG thing of being a separate plastic piece from the model. Although sadly we somehow still don't have cab windows. Whatever. Another one of the big upgrades here are the side rods. Now no other diecast Thomas really has ever tried the idea of side rods, and it's understandable why. If they were made out of cheap plastic, they would break off easily. And that would not be great. That would be a choking hazard because these are toys meant for really young children. But finally, we have side rods. Now, much to your disappointment, these are static side rods. They do not move in motion. This means that it looks cooler when the model is displayed, but it's funny considering the fact that this is again supposed to be a toy for young kids. So why do they have a detail that's only really used in $100 models? I will never know. And moving on over to his back, we can see a nice little surprise. Ignoring the unpainted back buffers, we have a back lamp. And that's all I have to say in regards to that. I almost forgot to mention the new wheel molds. I love these! Now the wheels no longer have to be printed in order to look good. The actual detailing is on the mold itself. I love that! Moving on to the chassis, you can see that it uses a similar design to the AEG ones. Although I do have a very big negative point, is that one of the Phillips screws got removed and replaced with a rivet. That sucks. Although the one Phillips screw that remains is actually holding up the smoke box. So I did a little bit of an experiment. I removed the screw so I was able to lift up the smoke box a lot higher than it should be. And I was able to get rid of the face. Here's the only photo I have of that. This means that we can actually do face swaps. So if you don't like the look of this face, you can easily replace it with another face from another variant of Thomas that comes down the line in the future. That's pretty much the whole model fully explained. I think it's best we try him out on some tracks now. I wanted to put in the final thoughts and star rating here since I didn't want to make the video any longer than it needs to be. Playing with this gave me a feeling that's difficult to explain in a way. I think the best way to start this is by looking at what younger me used to play with. Here's a special photo of my younger self, I think from 2007. Here you can see me holding a big old Elmo plush. And right there is my first and only normal take-along Thomas. To this day, I still kept that same Thomas. It is a relic to me because it was my first ever Thomas toy. And here's a photo of that exact same Thomas right next to the new 80th one. Yeah, I gave the old boy a lot of love. I really love that thing. In my childhood, I basically wanted a take-along model that looked like the Buckman one, or had the detail of a Buckman, but one that didn't run on Buckman track. I was a full-on diecast user back in the day. I didn't use wooden railway track, and it took a long while before I had Trackmaster. The 80th one to me is basically like a dream come true. It's like the one thing that I wanted all these years. Well, 2 decades late, but that's besides the point. In short words, playing with the 80th one made me feel like a kid again. It gave me the positive feeling that I always wanted to feel again through all these years. I'm sick and tired of the internet right now just being full of negative stuff like generative AI and bad company practices and bad ideas. I just want one positive thing again to make me feel like a kid again. And this thing did it perfectly. Sure, this thing may not have a wide running board or cab windows or even the adventures couplings if I were to go hard on it. But for something that's gonna be mass produced, available worldwide, and sold cheaply, like $5, this is easily the best generation of Metal Collection Thomas toy I've seen. I can bother about the other details another time. It's completely fine in my books. For star rating, this is a guaranteed full star. No questions asked. Just a full star. Not a point higher, not a point lower. If you see any of these in your local shops, buy them. 100% recommended. Do not scalp them. Buy them with the intention that you're going to use them. Well, that got a little bit emotional at the end, didn't it? Well, I hope you enjoyed this review as much as I did making it. My throat is a little bit sore right now, so I need to drink something in order to feel better. And while I'm at it, I'm going to play with this boy all day. So, see you guys then. Bye-bye. Wait, what do you mean that my engine celebration pack arrived? What?